In a small, forgotten town, nestled deep in the woods, there was an old, abandoned house known as the Miller Place. The townsfolk whispered stories about it, tales of strange noises, flickering lights, and shadows that moved against the grain of the walls. But to Emma, a curious teenager with a penchant for exploring, it was the perfect opportunity for adventure. One chilly autumn evening, Emma gathered her friends, Mike and Sarah. Armed with flashlights and a shared sense of bravery, they made their way to the Miller Place just as twilight enveloped the sky. The house loomed before them, its broken windows like vacant eyes staring out into the darkening forest. "Are you sure about this?" Mike asked, his voice tinged with doubt. "Come on, it's just an old house," Emma replied, her excitement bubbling over. "What's the worst that could happen?" With a deep breath, they pushed open the creaky door. It swung inward with a loud groan, revealing a dust-laden foyer. The air felt thick, almost alive, and a shiver ran down Emma's spine as they stepped inside. As they explored the ground floor, they found nothing but the remnants of a life long gone: peeling wallpaper, scattered furniture, and the scent of mold. Yet something felt off. Each room seemed to hold its breath, as if waiting for them to leave. They climbed the rickety staircase, their flashlights casting eerie shadows on the walls. As they reached the second floor, Emma suddenly heard a faint whisper, soft and unintelligible. She turned to her friends, but they were too engrossed in the peeling paint to notice. "Did you hear that?" she whispered. "Hear what?" Sarah replied, shrugging off Emma's concern. Emma shook her head, convinced she had imagined it. They continued down the hallway until they reached a door at the end, slightly ajar. The whispering grew louder, swirling around her like a cold wind. "Let's check it out," Emma urged, pushing the door open. Inside was a small room, cloaked in shadows. A single chair faced a dusty mirror, and on the floor lay a tattered diary. Emma picked it up, her fingers brushing against the pages. The handwriting was frantic, filled with scrawled notes about voices and shadows lurking in the dark. "Guys, you need to see this," she said, turning to show her friends. But when she looked back, they were gone. Panic gripped her heart. "Mike, Sarah." Silence answered her. Just then, the whispers intensified, echoing through the room, forming words that twisted her gut. "Get out! Get out!" Emma dropped the diary, racing back into the hallway. But as she ran, the walls seemed to close in around her, the air growing thick and oppressive. Every door she passed was now locked, the once familiar layout of the house distorting in a nightmare of shadow and sound. She finally stumbled into the main room, her breath coming in panicked gasps. "Guys!" she screamed, but the only response was the whispering, now a cacophony of voices. Suddenly, a figure appeared in the doorway, silhouetted against the fading light. Emma squinted, hope surging. Could it be Mike or Sarah? But as the figure stepped into the room, her heart sank. It was a woman, her face pale and gaunt, hair hanging in tangled strands. "Help me," the woman rasped, her voice a dry whisper echoing the others. "You have to leave, before it gets you too—" Emma's instincts kicked in. She turned to flee, but the whispers intensified, weaving a tapestry of dread that threatened to ensnare her. "Stay, stay with us," they called, each syllable pulling her back toward the figure. "No!" Emma shouted, pushing against the walls of sound, the weight of the house pressing down on her. She sprinted down the hall, barreling through a door and tumbling outside, gasping for fresh air. The moon hung high in the sky, illuminating her path back to the forest. She didn't stop running until she reached the safety of the town's edge. She turned back to the Miller place, heart pounding. But it was silent now, the shadows still and watchful. Days later, Emma gathered the courage to return with help. But when they arrived, the house stood as it always had, abandoned and forgotten. No whispers, no shadows, just the old structure, untouched by time. "Are you sure it was here?" Mike asked, looking around. Emma nodded, but deep down, she felt the echoes of that night clawing at her memory. The fear of what had been, and the knowledge that some places hold on to their secrets, even when no one is watching. As they turned to leave, a whisper brushed past Emma's ear, soft and chilling, "Stay with us." And in that moment, she understood. The Miller place was waiting, patient and hungry for its next visitor.